I believe many people underestimate in the work environment, in the society at large, in pockets of culture, and by that I mean a neighborhood, one particular territory, a zip code, a block, an area code, one city versus another city, one state versus another state, one nation versus another nation. I believe people underestimate the power of the friction, the power of the challenges, the vitriol, the almost hatred that can be created with a little bit of competitive influence created by greed. Created by greed. To simply say to someone, hey, they have it better than you do. They've got nicer houses, nicer cars. They've got better things than you have. They have a better life than you have, a better education than you have. They have more opportunity than you have. That inspiration alone, that twisting of the want in a person creates enough disharmony to create disaster, not only in relationships, but in societal upheaval. And I believe that's a challenge that we face today, and it's a legitimate problem. But I believe there is a tool to fight the system that I think you're going to say, I don't believe that's a tool to fight the system until you try it. And when you try it, you're not going to believe how powerful it really is. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. And I remember when I was in my early 20s, everyone was very competitive even then as far as who has the best stuff and who has the nicest stuff. And I remember being at my first duty station. There was a guy that I worked with there by the name of Sergeant Oakes. Sergeant Oakes was almost exactly my same age. There may have been a couple of months difference between us. But Sergeant Oakes had this incredible work ethic. He also had an incredible ambition. And he was the first guy that I ever saw do hanging knee raises, where he would put his arms in these straps and hang his body in midair. Now, we were firefighters, so we got to spend a lot of time in the gym. We had a gym in the fire station, and we would spend hours in the gym working out. But he had like this 3% body fat, skinny guy, ran forever and ever and ever. But he would do these hanging knee raises until he had just this ripped, chiseled six-pack. He also was a guy who understood from early on, his parents taught him, his dad being a CPA, the value of a good credit report. And so he had a good credit report. He also had the discipline to say, I'll take the bus around base, I'll take a cab into town and say, I'm not even going to buy a car until I can pay cash for it. And so the very first car he bought, I thought that was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. It was a Geo Metro. It was about this big. It was hideous, but it was bright red. It was brand new, and he paid cash for it when he bought it. And I drove an old Firebird at the time. I didn't think much of it. But it was a nice old car for me. Now it's a classic. It would be worth tens of thousands of dollars. But back then it was just an old jalopy, 20 years old, and a piece of crap. But I was really jealous of his little car. And I was really jealous of his 8-pack. I just wasn't willing to do the work that he had done to achieve those things. But the other thing that he had was this tenacious study ability. He would study and study and study and study and study. And although we both came in to the Air Force at the same time, every time there was an opportunity for a test, his time and grade would be like right at the edge of qualifying to take the test for the next promotion. But he had studied so hard for that next promotion that it would be hard even for somebody with time and grade to beat him. He would almost ace every test. So to go from an airman to a first NCO status, he did it on the first try, the first time around. Well, by the time he went to staff sergeant, by the time he went to tech sergeant, he was, for the most part, 5 and 6 years ahead of other people the same rank. Meaning there were other guys of the same rank that were almost 10 years older than him. And he was in his early 20s at a very high rank for an early 20-year-old. And the challenge that presented for him was pretty amazing. But the challenge it presented for other people who were older than him of lower rank, who had more time in service and lower rank, who didn't live as well as him. They weren't as physically fit as him. They didn't have the car that he had. They didn't have all their ducks in a row, so to speak, that he had. There was a lot of jealousy, downright meanness, cruelty. People constantly looking to get one up on him. People constantly looking for the chink in his armor, to find a way to accuse him of something that would bring him down from his high horse of achievement. Now, I'm going to tell you, there are a whole lot of people in this world today who live in a state of constant bickering. The toxicity in their mentality, the toxicity in their mindset is wrapped around the fact that somebody has something I don't have. And they never ask the question, have they achieved something by great effort? Have they achieved something because they put their back into it? Have they accomplished something or acquired something by great amounts of sacrifice that I'm not willing to make, haven't been willing to make, I'm not making now, and I'm not making in the future? Because that really is the rub. When you can look at somebody and go, but they have things I don't have, you've got to ask yourself, are you willing to do what they did to get what they have, so that you also can get what they have? What we find most often is that hate mongers, warmongers, and I use that in a very broad sense. I know that there are people literally around the world who intentionally start wars because war is profitable for them. Or they start wars because if these two enemies fight each other out, then I won't have to fight them both, I'll only have to fight one. But I also believe that there are those who create incendiary conversations in social media for the purpose of causing people to bicker against each other, causing people to attack each other, to destroy each other's reputations, to destroy each other's businesses. And they do it intentionally. If you can be provoked to react to someone else's success because they are more successful than you are, there's a weapon to fight against that. And I experienced that weapon firsthand in probably most unusual way. At the same season of my life that Sergeant Oakes and I worked together in the fire department, I was sent on what's called a TDY, a temporary duty assignment, to Honduras. And about the third week that I was there, we had a chance to go build showers and a brick kitchen and ovens and all kinds of really cool civil engineering stuff, because we're part of that squadron, for an orphanage that was about 2 hours away from the base. We went by helicopter. And I remember when we landed, actually the first time we went, we drove. When we drove up, I remember driving up and seeing all these just little kids running around by themselves, and they were trying to play soccer with a ball that was so flat, they would kick it and it would fly through the air and it would hit the ground, it would just splat. I mean, like a scrambled egg, just stick to the ground. It didn't roll half an inch. And they would all run to the ball, and somebody would kick it again and it'd fly through the air and hit the ground and just splat and just stick to the ground. So when we went to town for lunch after doing the work that we did for the morning, I saw a guy with a big basket of little kickballs. Nothing special. I think it cost me 6 lempira, which is less than a US dollar at that time at the exchange rate. So I took a US dollar out of my pocket. I gave it to him. He was ecstatic to have the dollar. I got a big red ball. And when we went back from lunch, I just tossed it out of the truck for these kids to kick around. Every last one of those kids, of all ages, of all colors and nationalities, ran to me and clung to my leg in gratitude for a $1 kickball. Now, they didn't say, how come that ball is better than that? How come we didn't all get a ball? They didn't ask the question, why is your life better than mine? They never pointed to me to say, you must have some advantage I don't have in life. No, they were grateful for what they had. But if I had never brought that ball, their game of soccer would have never come to an end with the flat ball that they did have. A $1 gift was a significant gift to their life, but it wasn't expected. They weren't entitled to it, and they were grateful for it. I'm going to tell you straight up, for people who live in life, and they've been provoked, they've been poked, they've been taught to ask the question, why is your life better than mine? How come you have more than I do? How come I don't have everything you have? You need to give it back to me. You need to give it over to me. People have been taught to think that way. And it's been taught all over the world to all ages and all races and all nationalities. Part of it is a marketing technique to create sales. You've got to create a want in people or they won't buy your products. But when that gets too far, when it goes awry, is when people look at you and say, you have things that I don't have and I'm going to take them. Now we have a bigger problem in our society and in our culture. I think the lack of gratitude is probably one of the most pernicious, most challenging attitudes that our society has faced ever in humanity. The competitive nature that says, because you have and I don't, there's something wrong with you for having. It's a problem. But the grateful heart that says, I don't compare myself in life based on what you have versus what I have. I'm grateful for everything that I have. I appreciate everything that I have. I take good care of everything that I have. Generally opens doors to have more. It generally causes an attitude in you that makes people want to give to you, because gratitude is reciprocal. It generally causes an appreciation in you to say, I understand the sacrifice and the hard work necessary to get whatever I have in my life, whatever good relationships, whatever education, whatever wealth, whatever job opportunities, whatever possessions I have in my life. I have worked hard to get them. I appreciate them more. And when you recognize that in yourself, it's a whole lot easier to look at someone else who has more, has accomplished more, and honestly recognize that they have worked hard and sacrificed much to get it. Now, let me also lay something in beside this truth that is hard for a lot of people to accept. Along the way of all of humanity, there have been those who have found a way to get someone else to share the workload, but they didn't share the rewards. That's been true of all humanity, because humanity, by and large, is not naturally good. I know that rocks a lot of people's boat. That's a big discussion for another time. But if you understand that humanity isn't naturally good, and that there will always be those who will take advantage of you, there will always be those who will ask you to do some work so that they can reap the rewards. They will reap where they haven't sown, and they will take advantage of you. That's just human nature. But it doesn't mean that everybody who has something you don't have has done that. It also doesn't mean that the only way you'll ever succeed in life is to take it back from them. But it should be an indicator to you that you have an opportunity to go get what it is in life you believe you want. I can tell you this for a fact, though. It's been true in my life. It's been true in millions of lives throughout human history. The system is rigged in such a way that those who are willing to work hard will generally succeed. And those who are willing to put in the time to make the sacrifices, to give up a little bit of now for a lot more later, almost always get a lot more later than even they expected. It's also rigged so that some people will take advantage of other people and their hard work. In the world of entrepreneurialism, you'll hear a lot of people say, why should I work 40, 50, 60 hours a week for the boss to put money in the bank of the company, for him to take grand vacations when I'm barely making enough to keep the rent paid? Part of that is a genuine question that has a real philosophical issue to it, and that is, some people have built companies structured in such a way that only the top people succeed. But there's also a place where you got to say, I'm grateful that they built a company that has the fortitude to pay me for the 40, 50, 60 hours a week that I work. And if I learn to manage my money better and my opportunities better and my education better, I will one day own a company like that, or I will one day move to a bigger job. It's the lack of gratitude and the instigation of competitiveness and jealousy that causes the friction. If you want to fight the system, this is almost a secret weapon, because most people won't see it early on. And some people who see it will think you've lost your ever-loving mind. But if you will begin today to express gratitude verbally, internally, externally, in the world around you, in the way that you live your life and the attitude that you have for the people around you, if you'll express gratitude for the things and the people and the accomplishments and the opportunity that are in your life now, it's almost impossible to believe, but better will come. more will come. Opportunity will come, possessions will come, wealth will come, better relationships will come when gratitude is the nature of your being. I know that sounds insane, but I'm going to challenge you to try it. Rather than asking yourself, why do they have that and I don't? Why do they get to succeed and I don't? Why do they have possessions and I don't? Ask yourself, how can I be grateful for what I have right now? And you're going to be able to see a change in your life in a very short period of time. That's your number 5 way to fight the system. Don't allow the system and the manipulators of the system to create a jealousy in you that causes you to despise those who have more than you or who have succeeded more than you, because there will always be someone who has more. Even Bill Gates asks, who has more money than me? And how did they get it? I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day. Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.